Purport by Srila Prabhupada. All the above mentioned activities of the Yadus and Bhojas were executed by the internal potency of the Lord, because He wanted them to be dispatched to their respective abodes after He had finished His mission of descent. They were all His sons and grandsons and were given complete protection by the paternal affection of the Lord. How they could be vanquished in the presence of the Lord is answered in this verse. Everything was done by the Lord Himself, Swatma Mayaya. The Lord's family members were either incarnations of His plenary expansions or demigods from the heavenly planets, and thus before His departure, He separated them by His internal potency. Before being dispatched to their respective abodes, they were sent to the holy place of Prabhasa, where they performed pious activities and took food and drink to their heart's content. It was then arranged for them to be sent back to their abodes so that others could see that the powerful Yadu dynasty was no longer in the world. In the previous verse, the word anugnata, indicating that the whole sequence of events was arranged by the Lord, is significant. These particular pastimes of the Lord are not manifestation of His external energy or material nature. Such an exhibition of His internal potency is eternal, and therefore one should not conclude that the Yadus and Bhojas died in a drunken state in an ordinary fratricidal war. Sri Jiva Goswami comments on these incidences as magical performances. Thus ends the Bhaktivedanta purport. So these are words spoken by Uddhava in this chapter. And in this verse, Uddhava is saying, Lord Krishna Gatim tam avalokya saha avalokya, gatim avalokya, he saw or he foresaw gatim, the end, his own ending, his own pastimes. And his ending of his pastimes, all his pastimes were swatma mayaya. They are performed under his own internal potency. And foreseeing that, Saraswatim upasprashya vrikshamulam upavishat, he sipped water, upasprashya, Saraswatim, and vrikshamulam upavishat, he sat down under the tree, at the foot of a tree. And Prabhupada is referring in the purport, drawing from the previous verse and from previous chapters, which will be later on described in greater detail in the 11th canto, about the fratricidal war, the disagreement and the violence that happened between the Yadus and Bhojas, and how they were all, Krishna's sons and grandsons, were all killed. And then Krishna also left the planet. So the question may come up in somebody's mind, why is this kind of a fratricidal, and how they ate and they got drunk, and they became delirious. Last time it was described, or somewhere else it was described, how they became. Last verse, delirious. And that way, bhuktva pitva chavarunim vibhramshita gnana taya vibhramshita gnana durukthaihi marma pasprushaha. And in this way, they verbally abused each other, they fought with each other and killed each other. Oh, what's happening? And they were all brothers and cousins. Very perplexing. So here Uddhava is clarifying that this was all happening Swatma Mayaya, under his own internal potency. Someone was telling me that a person recently has written Ramayana or rewritten Ramayana from a totally different perspective, in which he turns around and makes Ravan the hero and Rama the villain. Here in Jaipur Lit Fest, the author discussed this book, and everyone said, so wonderful, such a creative thing. Wow, it's a new perspective to Ramayana altogether. So, this is the result of a misdirected civilization. What is the purpose of Ramayana? What was the purpose of the original author, Valmiki, who wrote? What was the purpose of Ram, who came to this world? Why all this happening? How do we understand these things? People have no understanding about all this. They think that it's my creativity, I can look at the story in a different way, I can turn it around and make the hero the heroine, villain the hero, and hero the villain, and villain the hero. I can do all these kind of things and entertain the readers and become well known. This is not the way to approach Vedic literatures and Vedic knowledge. And if we don't take the right approach for understanding Vedic literatures, we will have all kinds of wrong understanding, total misunderstanding of the subject. On the other hand, Srila Prabhupada introduces to us how this knowledge has to be received. Evam parampara praptham imam rajarshayo viduhu. This knowledge, Vedic knowledge, has to be understood in parampara. Meaning, it is a knowledge, an understanding, a certain perspective that is descending in a parampara, and we hear and understand and appreciate that. It is not that we use our own creativity, our own ideas, and try to figure out some new meaning. That is not the way, because it is not a creative entertainment that is being offered. There's a serious knowledge. There is a serious wisdom that is being imparted. It's not something that we can in a fanciful way interpret it. I can interpret in a fanciful way. And if you are more creative, more artistic, you can interpret in an even better way. And then a third person will come and he is even more creative and he will give another fanciful interpretation. And then all of us look at it, so how wonderful different interpretations and how creativity is being exhibited. This is not, we are missing the whole thing. We don't know, we are not understanding what is the purpose of the Vedic literatures. Just like you go to a big building, a mall or an office or something, and then they have written some instructions. In case of fire, do this, do that, run this way, go to this exit, take the staircase, don't take the lift. And if there is too much smoke, go down and then crawl on the floor and all those kind of things. And suddenly you are there in the building and there is fire alarm. And you are with your very good friend who is also a very creative person. And then you start looking at this board and then he starts interpreting in a very wonderful way. You have to crawl. Crawl means this. Smoke means this. And then both of you are debating which is a better interpretation. And then he says no, this one, he says another. And then you are fully engaged in the whole debate and the discussion of the wonderful meanings that are coming out of that message. And then the fire rescue people are trying to come and pull you out. They say, no, we are in a serious literature fest here. Don't disturb us. You see, and then it's going on and on and on. And finally the rescue people, they say, what to do with these people? Let's go and rescue someone else and they'll go away. And then, you start, these two people start coughing and then, finish. That instruction was there to help them, to rescue them, to take them out when they are in danger. And because they got stuck in their fanciful interpretation, they lost their own lives. The same way the Vedic literatures have a serious purpose. When Krishna descends, he comes with a serious purpose. Just like our Prime Minister goes to some country, China or America or somewhere, he has gone with a serious purpose. Or a big leader of another country comes to our country, they come with the whole entourage and then so many things. Before they come, the Foreign Affairs Ministry has contacted each other, they are planning, they are coming with a certain purpose. That's why Krishna says in the Bhagavad Gita, Yada yada hi dharmasya glanir bhavati bharata abhyuthanam adharmasya tadatmanam srujamyaham. So when the Lord, He's saying, I appear in every millennium with a serious purpose. So without regard to any of these statements of the Lord, people tend to find their own interpretations of these kind of things. So that is not the approach of the Vedic literatures, and Srila Prabhupada points out that this is a knowledge that has to be taken with a certain amount of sobriety, gravity, and seriousness. Following in the footsteps of the acharyas, previous acharyas, who also understood this and how they looked at this whole knowledge And what did they do with that knowledge? And after they understood that knowledge, how did they lead their lives? See, our whole approach, the approach that Srila Prabhupada presents, is a very respectful approach to this whole body of knowledge. There is a certain amount of genuine sincerity, trying to know what is the meaning, what is the purport of these Vedic literatures. Not some kind of a fanciful flamboyance that I am so good, I can interpret this in such a fanciful way and entertain all of you, and then I will get some accolades from all of you. I am myself ignorant, and I am explaining all this in front of a bunch of ignorant people, and they are also giving accolades. What is the meaning of these accolades? There is a story in Sanskrit. Once a camel was getting married. And the camel, for his marriage, he wanted a good orchestra. And so he invited a donkey for the orchestra. And in the marriage ceremony, and they were saying, "Oh, camel, how beautiful you are." And who was saying? The donkey was singing, "How beautiful you are." And the camel was responding, "How wonderful your voice is. Aho rupam, aho dhvanihi." Oh, such a beautiful form. Camel is generally, it's not such a wonderful animal. It's a good animal, poor animal. Carries out in deserts and all of that. But not so good looking, there's another saying, of course in some other context. Camel is a horse designed by a group of people. So when a group of people try to do creative work, and they just set out to design a horse, and when group of people do that, there was severe disagreement with each other, and finally the result was a camel. That's the general idea. So, who is glorifying whom is important. Learned people, when they glorify, then it has value. Bunch of ignorant people glorifying another ignorant person, it has no much value. So, an important point that Krishna brings out in the 4th chapter of the Gita. See, this is something so special about Srila Prabhupada and the Acharya's explanation of the Vedic literatures. There are very few people who have actually pointed these things out. And how these are so central to the understanding of the Bhagavad Gita and the message. Krishna begins to say, actually, Bhagavad Gita is so wonderful. How Krishna brings out these concepts. So we know in the 4th chapter, Krishna begins to say, Imam vivasvate yogam proktavan aham avyayan vivasvan manave praha manurikshvakave pravit. Very simple. Krishna is saying, Arjuna, whatever I am describing to you, long ago I described this knowledge to Vivasvan, sun god. Vivaswan then explained this to Manu. Manu later on explained this to Ikshvaku. In this way, evam parampara praptham imam rajarshayo viduhu. In this way, this knowledge is descending. Sakala neha mahata yogo nashta parantapa. In due course of time, this flow of knowledge got interrupted. It was lost. And hence, sayevayam mayatedhya yoga prokta puratanaha. Puratanaha yogaha adya proktaha. That same ancient knowledge, today I am explaining to you. This is the statement that Krishna has made. Arjuna immediately asks the question. Sayevayam mayatedya yoga prokta puratana bhaktosi me sakha cheti rahasyam hetaduttamam. Arjuna uvacha. After Krishna saying this, I spoke to Vivaswan to Manu, Manu to Ikshvaku. In this way, this knowledge is received. But in due course of time, it was lost. And hence, that same ancient knowledge I am speaking to you today, Arjuna. After hearing this, Arjuna asked the question, Aparam bhavato janma param janma vivasvataha. Katham etad vijaniyam tvamadhav proktavaniti. It's like this. Suppose I tell you, about 6 months back, I had been to Delhi, and then I met a gentleman, an elderly man, and I had some discussion with him, and he liked the proposal I had made, and he took it to his next, another important person, and that person in turn took the whole message, the proposal that I had given, and he explained that to Mahatma Gandhi, and Mahatma Gandhi liked the idea very much. If I tell you this, then you'll all think, what is this? When did this happen, Prabhu? Because I said sometime back I had gone to Delhi and I explained something to somebody, and he was an important person, and he explained to another person, and that person explained to Mahatma Gandhi. When Mahatma Gandhi heard that one, he liked the idea so much. Then immediately you will ask, okay, how can it be? Mahatma Gandhi is so much senior, older. 1948 he passed away, we know. And you are saying you explained to Gandhiji, you look relatively younger. How could you have explained to Mahatma Gandhi, to somebody, and who explained further to, like that? The same question Arjuna is asking. Because Ikshvaku is a well-known Maharaja. In his dynasty came Lord Ramachandra, which happened in the previous Yuga, Treta Yuga. Now Krishna and Arjuna, this discussion is happening in Dwapar Yuga. Krishna is saying, I spoke this knowledge to Vivaswan, Vivaswan spoke to Manu, Manu spoke to Ikshvaku. That's long, long ago. So Arjuna's natural question is, Aparam bhavato janma. Bhavataha janma aparam. Vivasvataha janma param. This means you're relatively junior, Krishna. Vivasvan's, you're much, much more senior to you. Right? It's like saying, hey, Prabhu, you're so junior. Gandhiji is so much more senior to you. How can I understand you spoke something which was later on passed on to Gandhi and he liked it? How can I understand him? Katham etat vijaniyam tvam adav proktavaniti. How can I understand? Katham etat vijaniyam tvam adav proktavan. How in the beginning you spoke this to Vivaswan and he understood Manu and then Manu spoke. How can this be possible? So immediately Arjuna, for that Krishna explains, Sri Bhagavan Uvacha, Bahuni mi vetithani janmani tavacharjuna tanyaham veda sarvani natvam vetha parantapa. Many births I have taken, many births you have also taken. Bahuni me vyatitani janmani tavacharjuna, and you have also taken birth. Tanyaham veda sarvani, I remember all of them, which birth, what I did, all that. I remember. Aham veda sarvani, I understand everything. Natvam vetha parantapa, tvam na vetha. But Arjuna, you don't understand. Why Krishna is saying this is, Krishna is making a distinction of who he is and what the living entity is. He is the Lord who remembers all these things, whereas the living entities forget. And in the next verse, he explains a word which is used in today's, no problem. In today's verse, in the next verse, Krishna is saying, Ajopi san avyayatma bhutanam ishvaropi san prakritim swamadhishtaya sambhavamya atma mayaya. Swatma mayaya. In today's verse we read, Bhagavan swatma mayaya gatim tam avalokya saha. So Krishna is saying, Ajaha, avyayatma, bhutanam ishvaraha. This is my position. Because Arjuna asked, how can you remember, how could you have spoken to Vivaswan and all of that? Krishna is saying, Aja, I am unborn, avyayatma, and my personality, Atma, my personality is avyaya, not a deteriorating personality or a deteriorating form. Like all our bodies continuously are deteriorating. Today we are one day older than we were yesterday. Tomorrow we will be another day older than we are today, and we have no control on stopping this. Our bodies are aging and aging and aging, and we are heading towards becoming an old person. So Krishna's body is na avyayatma. Ajopi san avyayatma. Bhutanam ishvaropi san. Bhutanam, of all living entities, of all existence, I am the Lord, I am the controller. Bhutanam ishvaropi san. Prakritim swam, this is my own nature. My nature is that I am unborn, not deteriorating. My form never deteriorates. My personality never deteriorates. And I am the controller of everything. This is my nature. Situated in my nature, Prakritim swam adhishtaya, swam prakritim adhishtaya. Situated in my own nature, Sambhavami, I appear in this world, Atma Mayaya, by my internal energy. So very clearly Krishna is making a distinction about who he is and who Arjuna is, who the Lord is and who all of us, the living entities, are. So importantly, Krishna is saying, I appear in this world, Sambhavami, Atma Mayaya, Prakritim Swam Adhishtaya, situated in my own potency, I appear. And a few verses after this, Krishna says, Janma Karma Chame Divyam. My birth, my activities are all Divya. So much so, Janma Karma Chame Divyam, Evam Yoveti Tattvataha. Anyone who understands this Tattvataha, who can understand this, the truth about my appearance, my activities, Tyaktva Deham, punarjanma naiti mameti saha Arjuna. This is so clear. Krishna trying to point out how his nature, his personality is very different from ours. And when he appears in his own internal potency. So here also in today's verse, Bhagavan Swatma Mayaya Gatim Tam Avalokya Saha. So he saw his own end, how he is going to end, how the Lord appears, how the Lord disappears. All of these are activities happening under the spiritual potency, internal potency, Lord's own potency, a different kind of potency. And hence, if we want to understand Lord and his activities, it requires another kind of an approach, not just some fanciful creative interpretation. This is true about Krishna, this is true about Ram, this is true about all the different incarnations of the Lord. So how we approach this subject, how we understand? Usually the Lord comes and does his pastimes. And if we even hear that pastime, it is very liberating and elevating. But sometimes Krishna wants to explain about himself and what pastimes he does and why he does those pastimes, so that we understand who he is. That's the whole purpose of the Vedic literatures. Vedaischa sarvair ahameva vedyaha. So, what is interesting here is another interesting perspective Srila Prabhupada points out. Just like Krishna is Divyam, transcendental personality, his appearance, his activities are also Divyam, enacted on the spiritual potency. Not only Krishna is transcendental being, Krishna reveals in the Gita that all of us are also transcendental being. Not only is Krishna transcendental, even we are also transcendental, but today our consciousness is not in the transcendental state, but now the consciousness is polluted, and that consciousness is now expressed in terms of this body that we have become encaged with. But otherwise, we are also a transcendental being. And being a actually we are transcendental being, and so we can also, currently we are not able to experience that reality about ourselves because we have become polluted. Our consciousness is polluted because we are thinking in terms of our body. I am not the body. I am a particle of consciousness that is residing in the body. This consciousness is manifested within this body. I know what is happening in my body, in my mind, in my intelligence, what is going on. I don't know what is going on in your mind. Only when you express, I become conscious of it. My consciousness is limited to my body. Your consciousness is limited to your body. So you are a unit of consciousness. I am a different unit of consciousness. We are all units of consciousness. And if you examine my consciousness, I think I am a man. I'm so many years old. I am this, that. I'm unintelligent. I'm intelligent. I'm this, that. I'm very talented or not talented or whatever. That's how we all think about ourselves. Each one of us think like that in terms of our body, but that actually that body and the consciousness connected with the body is not the true consciousness. It is a conditioned consciousness. Truth is that we are transcendental. Just like Krishna is transcendental, we are also transcendental. The difference between him and us is that when he comes into this material world, he never loses his transcendental position. But we who have come into this world, we have lost our transcendental position. That is the difference. And now we can revive our transcendental position, and only after we have revived our transcendental position, we can relate with the Lord in devotion. Brahma bhuta prasannatma na shochati na kangshati samah sarveshu bhuteshu mad bhaktim labhate param. In that state of consciousness, when our consciousness is elevated from the mundane consciousness, thinking I am a man, I am a woman, I am Indian, I am American, I am old, I am young, transcending that, when we come to the consciousness that I am a pure spiritual being, on that consciousness we can begin devotional service. Love of Krishna begins on that platform. So, as Krishna is transcendental, we are also transcendental, and we are meant for engaging in activities for his pleasure. His position is transcendental. His activities are transcendental. His pleasure is transcendental. And if we have to participate and give pleasure to him, we also have to be transcendental. And on the transcendental platform, bhakti, which is itself transcendental service happens, and that is what we should aim for. So, how does this living entity who is transcendental, how does that living entity come into this world, and how does that living entity get entangled in sinful activities? What is making this happen? Why is such a degradation of the living entity who is supposed to be transcendental? How did that living entity degrade himself to an existence where he is acting in sinful ways contrary to the pleasures of the Lord? How did this happen? Arjuna asked in the 3rd chapter of the Gita this question. 9:30, I must. So, let's see how Krishna answers this question. Arjuna uvacha athakhena prayuktoyam papam charati purushaha anichannapi varshneya baladiva niyojitaha. How does the living entity come to this kind of an activity, performing sinful activities, which is not natural? What is impelling the living entity to act in a sinful way? Athakhena prayuktoyam. What is impelling the living entity? Papam charati purushaha. Purushaha papam charati. Kena prayukto. What is impelling him to do papam? Anichannapi varshneya. Sometimes it appears like the living entity does not want to do sinful act, but he is baladiva niyojitaha. Sometimes he is forcefully engaged. Why is he performing such sinful activities? For which Krishna explains, Shri Bhagavan Vacha Kama yesha krodha yesha rajoguna samudbhavaha mahashano mahapapma vidyena miha vairina. Yes, what impels the living entity to act is kama. The lust, it is the lust which is forcing the living entity. And in this purport, very nicely Prabhupada explains certain things. In the purport to this verse, in the 3rd chapter, 37th verse. Usually we hear the statement, we are all part and parcel of Krishna. Prabhupada makes a different statement here. We are all part and parcel of Krishna's plan of enjoyment. Krishna is the Purusha, Adi Purusha, and he has a plan of enjoyment, and we are part and parcel of that plan of Krishna for his enjoyment. In the Upanishads, it is said, Eko Bahushyamaha. There was one Lord, and for his pleasure, he became many. You see, if we understand one of the important teachings of the Bhagavatam, of the Vedic literature, is that the absolute truth is a person. That Param Satya is a person. Right? Janmadhyasya yatonmayaditirathas chartheshva bhignaswarat Thene brahma hrudayadi kavaye muhyanti yat surayaha Tejo vari mrudam yatha vinimaya yatra trisargom mrisha Dhamnasvena sadha nirasta kuhakam satyam param dhimahi satyam param satya. So Bhagavatam, which is elucidating param satya, is saying that he's abhignaswarat, he's a purusha. Now, if the absolute truth is a person, the most important thing about a person is we are all pleasure seeking. Every one of us, everyone is seeking pleasure. Not only human species, even birds, animals, worms, all insects, everyone is seeking. That's the nature of a personality. Because personality is about being happy, being blissful. And then Prabhupada gives another example. If you lock up a person in a room for morning till evening, after a few hours, a person will become restless, bored. He'll want to read a book or make a phone call to a friend. Because being alone is not pleasurable. Being in the company of others is what gives pleasure. That's the nature of personality, and that's the nature of pleasure. So now if you say absolute truth is a person, and how does that absolute truth derive pleasure? And he is Swarat, he is independent. So what absolute truth does? Absolute truth is Krishna, we understand. Krishna expands himself into many living entities, and in that company of the many living entities, he engages in activities for his pleasure. Now somebody may say, oh, that means you are saying, earlier you said Krishna is independent, Swarat. Now you are saying he is dependent on the living entities for his pleasure. No, the living entities are not anybody, they are his own. We are his own. We are not different from Krishna. We are Krishna's. We belong to Krishna. Our existence is because of Krishna's existence. Just like sunshine is existing because of the sun. Sunshine has no independent existence without the sun. We are like the sunshine. We exist because of Krishna. And Krishna, eko bahushyamaha. And for his pleasure, he expanded into many living entities. For his pleasure. So which means all of us have a certain role to play for his pleasure. And that's what we are meant. We are constitutionally meant for that. We are made for that. And that activity that happens between the living entity and Krishna, it is full of love. Krishna is transcendental. His expansions have to be transcendental. And the interaction, that love that happens is also transcendental because its bhakti is transcendental. This is what is supposed to be going on. But somehow a few of the living entities have come here. We are here in this material world. So Prabhupada is saying all the living entities are parcel of Krishna's program of enjoyment. Krishna has a program of enjoyment. We were meant to be part of that program. But we have somehow descended to this material world. And when we are part of the Krishna's program of enjoyment, what is that the living entity has? Full of love for Krishna. But when the living entity comes to this material world, that love gets transformed into lust, kama. That is why you see how we are all driven by kama. Kama and prema, the difference is, prema is when you are thinking of Krishna's pleasure. Kama is when you are thinking of your own pleasure. That is the characteristic difference. And that's what we are all driven by. So, the original prema of the living entity, when it comes in contact with material nature, that prema is transformed into kama. Kama is not something new. It's a transformation of the prema. Now, if the living entity conducts his life in a certain way, that kama can be transformed back to its pure form as prema. And that's what Krishna consciousness is about. We are making an attempt to transform that kama back into prema. And when we do that, we are now entitled to go to the spiritual world. That's the transformation Krishna consciousness tries to bring about. Krishna comes to this material world, Acharyas come to this material world to enlighten us, because otherwise we will not know who we are, why we are here in this world. We will make our own programs to solve the problems of this world. So that is the great message of the Acharyas and the Vedic literatures that Srila Prabhupada points out. Just like Krishna appeared and he did his pastimes and he wound up his pastimes, all Svatma Mayaya, his own internal potency. In the same way, we can also become participants in the internal potency of the Lord, and that's what we are meant for. We have no other business other than serving Krishna. Every other business we have come up with. I must do this, I must do that, this is my duty, this is my responsibility. All of that is a creation of illusion. It's a creation of the illusory potency. We have no other duty save and except serving Krishna and pleasing Krishna. And when we come to that platform of again pleasing Krishna, serving Krishna, give up all other pursuits of pleasure in this material world independently, individually, that is a most peaceful state for the living entity. And Krishna wants to present, give that peace to the living entities, to experience that peace and joy of serving the Lord. That is Krishna consciousness. We'll stop here. Grantharaj Srimad-Bhagavatam ki, Shri Krishna Balaram ki.